Welcome once again to our mindfulness session. We are very glad to be back. We are sorry to hear that COVID is continuing to rise. I hope not where you are, but perhaps it is where you are. And if so, we hope you are well and getting the care that you need. Today for us is Thursday, October the 29th, almost Halloween. Don't know when you'll hear this, but we hope you will hear it. We're very glad to be back. We appreciate this opportunity to be with you all. Wish we had more of an opportunity to interact in some way, but we are grateful that you're here, even though we can't see or hear you directly. So I'm Ms. Shepherd. We'll run this session today as we normally do. We'll have this sort of introduction, then Mr. Keogh will introduce himself. He'll lead a guided meditation. We'll have a conversation about a topic, and we'll end with another guided meditation. And with that, I will welcome Mr. Keogh.
Hello, that's right. My name is Mr. Keogh. Glad to be here. Just by way of a little bit more introduction, that both Ms. Shepherd and I have been coming in as volunteers to the Wisconsin prisons, and we both had come in to lead groups a couple times a month each place at several different places. And we can't do this anymore, but we're looking forward to be able to come back, and this won't last forever, and we will be back. But in the meantime, at least we can kind of hope to keep the flame burning with bringing some meditations to you and some reflections on the mindfulness practice. So, fundamental to everything we do is coming back and reflecting, being present to ourselves, and we do that with a daily mindfulness meditation practice. So if you're new, if you're just tuning in the first time, we're going to start right away now by doing a meditation, and don't feel like you have to have had any experience. I will guide us right along. So we recommend when you get ready to meditate to put yourself in a position where you can hold the position for 10 minutes or so. It'll be less than that today, right now. But kind of be in a position where you're comfortable. You can comfortably kind of hold that position. But you're not totally relaxed where you're going to fall asleep. So your mind is alert, and we're paying attention to what we're doing. We're watching what we're up to. And so if you can imagine a person who's maybe a hunter, who's in primitive times when they were waiting for the squirrel or the deer or the rabbit to get closer, they had to sit very still. They had to be very alert, but they had to sit still, comfortably able to hold the position. That's kind of what we're looking for. So sitting upright, if it's comfortable for you, shutting your eyes or at least closing them so that there's not a lot of distractions coming your way. And we'll start with a bell, and the idea of the bell is just put your mind, your attention on what's happening right now, not on what your stories within your mind, not thinking about the future or reflecting on the past, but just what's happening now, the sound of the bell. And what else is happening right now? Well, you know what you're feeling. You know that your body sensations are telling you things. You can feel your weight on the chair if you're sitting. If you happen to be standing, your weight on the floor in your feet. You can probably hear some things. And the idea here is just notice what you are feeling or sensing, not what's happening out there, but just your own action of hearing. Sounds happen, feelings happen, bodily sensations happen, smells happen. You might have some kind of smell. There might be some odor in the room. Don't think about what caused it, but just notice what it is like to feel it. Notice what it's like to hear things. But stay within your own skin, stay within your own body with your attention. What am I feeling right now? You might just do a rundown of your sensations. Some people watching this might be sitting in some pain. If it's very strong pain, think about other parts of your body that you're feeling that are more neutral. But if there are little pains, little aches, just notice them. Don't try to make them go away, just notice them. Often when I just sit still, I can notice, oh, you know what? I've got a little pain in my back over there. I didn't even notice it. Now I notice it. Don't make it go away. Just respect the fact that my back is telling me something. Or maybe there's a little itch somewhere. Or maybe it feels good to sit. Maybe I've been exercising and it's nice to sit down. And we think that we're sitting still, but we're always moving because we're always breathing. Notice the motion of breathing. Cool air coming in, chest going out, belly rising, warm air going back out. So as we're meditating, what we want to do is to be in the present moment. We want to be with ourselves. We want to let the busy thoughts, the patterns that we're always reacting to things. We're always rehearsing what happened, reliving the past, or else we're anxious, thinking about the future. Most all the time, when we're in the past or in the future, it's not really very pleasant thoughts. It's a little bit disturbing, a little bit uncomfortable thoughts. Right now, though, sitting right here, can we just be in the present? Not the past, not the future, but right now. What's it feel like to be sitting here, just quietly moving, the quiet motion of breathing? What am I feeling right now? And of course, there's always things that distract us. Sometimes we just distract ourselves. Often we just distract ourselves because our mind jumps into some story about what's going to happen next or what just happened. And when we get a distraction or we create our own distraction and we notice it, once we notice it, don't make a big deal about it. Just come back, drop whatever the distraction was, let it go, come back to what's happening right now in the real world, not in our imagination, but in the real world. This is reality. This is reality for me right now. I'm sitting, breathing. I find it helpful sometimes to count my breaths just to kind of give my mind something to do. Count one on the in breath, and then two on the next in breath. And I go up to 4, and then I start over at 1 again. It's not so much that I'm trying to fight off distractions or fight off other thoughts. It's more or less like I just want to let them go. After doing this for a while, I might notice other things about my body. Might notice that my shoulders are awfully tense. Just let your shoulders slump. Release the tension in your shoulders. Tension that you might not even have known you had. We often hold tension in our jaws. Let your jaw release. Let it hang down. If you've been listening, but you really haven't been following along and doing it, give it a try. Try just let your shoulders slump, let your jaw hang, let your eyes half close or all the way close. Feel how good it is just to allow peacefulness to arise. There's nothing here right now that you need to resist. Just let whatever is happening, let it happen. If there are aggravations in your world, just let them happen for a moment, for a couple of minutes. Tap into your own inner peace. Feel how reliable your body is, breathing. And when thoughts come, they always do. It's okay. If they get carried away too far, just come back to what it feels like to breathe. Okay, this is our little experiment, our sample meditation, and we'll do this for another 30 seconds. Follow your breath, the in breath, the pause, the out breath, little moment when there's no motion, then the next in breath. Do this for the next 2 or 3 breaths, and I'll be ringing the bell soon. Enjoy this few breaths. So, how was that for you, Miss Shepherd?
Lovely. Thank you.
I always find it better than I imagined it would be. Although sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's easier than other times,
Absolutely.
but it's a good practice. So today it's my turn to give a few reflections on this mindfulness business. And I thought I'd get into a little bit of what I've been reading and learning about the way the brain works today. I think we've said in previous videos that it's a pretty basic, essential human ability to be able to put ourselves in other people's shoes. And why, what does it mean? What, it's like, if I'm dealing with you, I'm dealing with another person. It's important that I be able to kind of imagine myself, you, hearing what I'm saying, so that I can actually talk to you in a way that makes sense to you. That I'm not just talking to you in a way that makes sense to me, but that it makes sense to you. And it comes up. It's really important. It's wired in to us as we evolved, because in our dealings with people, we need to connect with the other person. So, for example, any time that I want to, I want something from you. You know, you have something that I want. We want to do some kind of bargain. We want to do something. In order for me, I got to figure out, okay, he has something that I want. How do I get it? How do I do this? And it's like, okay, what do I have that he wants? What can we do to do an exchange that he would think is a good deal from his point of view? Well, I'm totally unable to do that if I can't imagine myself in his shoes. What does he want from me that I can offer him? And of course, the best kind of deal, the best kind of trade is if he wants something that I have more than I want it. So I give it away, and he has something that I want more than he wants it. So, I've got extras of this, he's got extras of that. Man, it's a good deal on both sides. That's a good trade. That can't happen if neither one of us can imagine what's going on with the other person. So it's really a very basic human ability. And we're doing this all the time, whether or not we realize it. This is just happening automatically. And it can be in things like trade. It can be just in talking. Am I saying something that he understands? I'm trying to get my point across to somebody, um, or just I'm trying to get him to leave me alone. How do I get him to leave me alone? I got to say things that kind of will sink into this person's thick skull or whatever. So what I heard, just interesting, is that when we're stressed, and this makes sense to me. So when we're stressed or we're fearful, those circuits in the brain that have built up over our human evolution, they get overshadowed. They tend to get shut down. And I think that we can imagine this. We've all experienced this when we're kind of in this situation where I'm just really tight. I'm defensive. I'm worried, fearful, anxious. My ability to really pay attention to the other person it's really reduced. I don't have much of that ability. Are those areas of the brain kind of they don't have any oxygen anymore. They're not breathing, and so when we say, "Oh, I lost it," that's an extreme. Something happened. I lost it. I just went blank. I think what we're really saying there is that our emotional energy has kind of totally taken us away from this ability to see the picture from any point of view other than our own narrow vision. And one of the big benefits, huge benefit of meditation and a mindfulness practice is that we get better just simply by meditating regularly and doing this practice of coming back to the present moment and coming back to what does our body feel like. And just this itself improves our ability to notice when we're on the edge of losing it, when we're on the verge of having this shutdown happen. So we don't really need to be talking about this. I'm only doing this to kind of explain what we actually experience. But the explanation is that we're losing it. This is happening automatically. It's just happening. It's not something that we decide. I'm not going to pay attention to what this guy wants, or I'm not going to try to put myself in this guy's shoes. We don't normally we don't do that at all. It happens. It's automatic. But what mindfulness does, it allows us to notice when we're getting on the verge of this, when it's happening. And it gives us the ability to kind of pull ourselves back, take a step back, maybe a step back, distract ourselves, do something to cut the what do we say, the momentum of that happening, so that, but, oh, I'm on the verge of losing it, is a thought, rather than 20 minutes later, oh, I lost it, like, I'm on the verge of it. It gives me a chance to do something. And that happens. That's on you. You can count on that. I'm going to put my unprofessional, unofficial guarantee that you can count on that with a meditation practice, with paying attention to mindfulness. There will be times when you'll notice I'm losing it a little bit more vividly than you would have, before you started meditating. But I kind of want to go back to another effect of mindfulness, application of mindfulness, and that's that we can work, not a good word, we can practice, pay attention to when our mind is moving away from this ability to put ourselves in the other person's shoes. We can develop a better sensitivity to when we are working against that ability. We're undermining that ability, and there's a word for that, and the word is ill will. It's like, it's a negative thing. It's like, oh, it's hostility. We can notice that a little bit more obviously, and we can work to develop the opposite of that, or what we call goodwill or positivity. And this is something that we want to be working on, developing stronger positivity in our lives, because it can move us so that we're nowhere close to losing it. It's not like, oh, I noticed that I'm losing it. We're not even in that ballpark anymore, because we developed an attitude, a habit of mind that's more on the positive side of things. So, I think there's a Christmas song, a Goodwill to Men, something like that, goodwill. What does goodwill mean? It's the positive side of ourselves. It's kindness, more intentionally paying attention to understanding the other person. It's optimism. It's the sunny side of things. It's not putting on rosy colored glasses and trying to make something better than it really is, but it's seeing the glass half full instead of half empty. It's not making the assumption that if I don't know something, it's probably bad. It's kind of like, oh, if I don't know something, I don't know it. Could be good, it could be bad. I'm not trying to be unreal here. I'm trying to actually be real, because this thing of the negativity, and we all know what we're talking about here. We all know people that tend to be real sad sacks and very negative, and we all know ourselves. I'm in a day when, whether or not I admit it, deep down I know I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Nothing is going well for me, and I'm just kind of mired in my own quicksand of ill will. It's not pleasant. So I think I've described it, but I wonder, Ms. Shepherd, do you know what I'm talking about here? You have other things that would kind of play in when I say goodwill versus ill will, wholesome thoughts versus unwholesome thoughts, healthy versus bad. You have other examples on either side of that?
Sure. I something thought about a good deal myself, just as we all have. Um, it's helpful to me, a couple of things, I guess. First is that it's helpful to me sometimes to pull back a little bit when thinking about goodwill and actually think about what it isn't. And what it isn't is wishing others harm. So when I can think about it in terms of just not wishing them harm, that I don't have to necessarily feel super positive, but to recognize that I really don't wish them harm. I don't wish them ill. that in some ways the absence of ill will is goodwill. And that can really help me to realize, well, I really, I don't like what that person's saying. I wish they were doing it differently. But in fact, I really don't wish them ill. I don't want them to be harmed. I don't want them to be sick. I don't want them to lose anything. I just wish they weren't doing what they're doing, but I don't wish them ill. And to me, that really is goodwill. And related to that sometimes for me, thinking about goodwill, I think about it in terms of willingness. Willingness is an important word for me, because the absence of willingness for me is ill will. It's defensiveness, it's defendedness, it's not wanting to be where I am, not wanting to hear what that person is saying, not wanting to hear what I'm saying, what I'm thinking. It's not wanting to be here. And so willingness to be present with with somebody else's views or opinions, willingness to be present in in a situation I don't want to be in. All of that to me is sort of the expression, the active component of goodwill. That when I can be willing, that comes from a place of goodwill, of being willing to be with it, to not try to defend it or explain it or make it better than it is or attack it or judge it. When those things aren't present, that's willing. And then I can offer goodwill.
And then it strikes me that as you're talking, that the opposite of goodwill are all these things that we don't like in other people, that we don't like in the people around us, that people who are kind of drag us down, because they're so sad or depressing, or they're deceptive. They're not honest with us. They're not fair with us. We can't really trust them. Or they've got a lot of ego. I think that ego is another thing, that it's almost as if you're operating goodwill, you're not trying to put yourself out above everybody else. So these basically, I think what it is that we're trying to be mindfully practicing the attitudes, the habits that we like in people around us, right? That kind of make people around us attractive to us. I don't know, I'm kind of thinking along those lines. So why would we want to be doing this? And I thought, well, why am I talking about this? Is this something, I'm not trying to be a preacher here, these are good for your spiritual health or whatever, or you get to heaven. That could be, but that's not my agenda. My agenda is that it makes our life smoother. It just makes our life, if we are actively developing the characteristics that the people around us appreciate, that they feel like, that's a good person to have around me, makes it easier to deal with them. It makes for less trouble. If I am kind of looking out defensively, fearfully, filling in what I don't know with negativity, chances are I'm going to bring on more negativity to myself. I don't know. So here's another question. I don't know. Do you have anything to add, Ms. Shepherd, in terms of why would a person want to be developing more goodwill or wholesome, healthy is another word there, isn't it? Healthier thoughts?
Sure. I guess I'm not at all shy about saying this is good for your spiritual health.
Okay.
Spiritual health now, and I don't know what comes next, but spiritual health right now, to feel more at ease and content, even in difficult situations. I think that's why it's so tied, I think, to our practice, is that one way to think about our meditation practice is we're learning, just as you said, Mr. Kia, we're learning to see things as they really are, to not get caught in thinking they're better than they are or thinking they're worse than they are, but seeing them as they actually are. And that's really, I think, what goodwill allows us to do, that it prevents us from getting caught in negativity, as you talked about, from being pulled down into depressive states, when we can know, oh, well, this is a depressive thought I just had, or I'm reacting strongly to what I've just seen on the television. When we can know that, it's not that we don't feel that feeling, but we don't have a sense of it shouldn't be this way. We just have a sense of, oh, well, this is what's arising now. I can understand that. Can I offer it goodwill? Can I offer depression, a sense of sadness? Can I offer a disappointment? Can I bring goodwill to that very experience in this moment? So there's sort of our reaction and a feeling. We can have a feeling, but it's what's the attitude we bring to that feeling. Do we then add a sense of this feeling shouldn't be here, or this is the absolutely right feeling and this is the only feeling anyone should ever have? Or it's all of those things that cause us to suffer, to feel unhappy and dissatisfied. So we're learning to be at ease with what is present. It doesn't mean we don't do anything about it, but that what we do about it is bringing clarity and wisdom. And I can't help but say that the pandemic is a total example of this in my mind, that we're learning to know there is a virus. It is causing people to be sick, dangerously sick. It spreads easily. Therefore, what do I do in order to protect myself and protect other people? If I refuse to see that, I don't protect myself, I don't protect other people. I think goodwill is the same. How do I notice what it is I'm putting into the world? And if what I'm putting into the world is something that brings my heart down and harms other people, it's not going to feel good. And it's not going to help. It's not going to help me. Because it feels, either it feels defended and frightened, or it feels dismissive of other people. Well, they're dumb, they don't know what's going on, which also feels separate, doesn't feel connected. When our hearts are open, we feel connected, we feel at ease, we feel safe, we feel comfortable. And that comes from a feeling of goodwill, from a feeling of not separateness, a feeling of connectedness, a feeling of, just as you talked about, Mr. Kia, a feeling of understanding. Oh, well, I get how that's not the decision I would have made, but I get how someone could have ended up doing that. It also doesn't mean we accept that someone else did that, or that we don't feel there should be consequences for the bad actions or the harmful actions people do. But we recognize it was a harmful action, and we don't dismiss that person's humanity fundamentally.
Yeah, this bottom line, I think, is that we're happier. We are happier when we kind of have a more positive, healthy outlook. When we're doing things that are more positive. And uh, when we're down, when we're being defensive, when we see things in the worst light, um, we're grabbing, we're we're envious, all these things that are associated with ill will. It really isn't healthy. It's not the best thing for us. We don't feel good. I think we feel better. Um, now I'm coming into my real pitch line here now, and that's that the good news that we learn in mindfulness is that we can change. Is that we can change our outlook, our attitude. We can move ourselves from a gloomier, defensive, hostile tendency over towards a tendency that's more open, that's more accepting, that's more generous, that's more positive, that sees the glass as neither half empty nor half full, but that is just a glass with water. um, we the automatic the habit of looking out and seeing things as bad as in their worst, or the habit of looking out and seeing things realistically, we can kind of move in that direction. That's what we work. And brain science is showing that too, that there are they can measure changes in those areas of the brain that are associated with satisfaction and positive things. They notice that people who have been regular meditators have whatever you say, they're more fully developed physically. The actual number of atoms in their brain or molecules, there are more of them over on the positive side. It's very interesting. Whereas brains can kind of shrink, they can kind of shrivel up a little bit. People that are habitually kind of under pressure, under attack, and the attack can be from our own thoughts. We are dragging ourselves down, and we all know people like that. And maybe we feel, and again, myself, I'm in that role sometimes. Some days I'm in that role, other days I'm not. But I can kind of, with practice, there are fewer days when I'm kind of this feeling oppressed, feeling a sad sack, and more days when I'm just realistic. I'm not, like Ms. Shepard said, I'm not changing the world. I'm not changing anything. I'm changing my relationship to it. I'm accepting what's happening. So how do I do this change? Okay, good. The good news is that we can change, and brain science says that meditators, tend to have more of these healthy sides of their brain. How do we do it? And now here's the other thing: is that little actions add up, and this is really important. That every time I notice that, I'm being defensive right now. Oh, I'm being hostile right now. I don't have to be. Oh, I'm looking at that person. I'm judging that person in a really negative thing. And there's nothing really going on. I don't have to do that. These tiny little instances when we notice that we're kind of in this ill will side of our brain, just noticing it, say, change the script. Oh, I'm looking at that person in a really kind of a negative way. I don't have to do that. Now, we're not trying to brainwash ourselves or anything like that. I'm not talking about being unreal, but I am saying notice when I'm really being unrealistically negative. Just noticing it, just in itself, just noticing, shining the light of awareness, shining the light of mindfulness on this kind of unnecessary negativity, makes it kind of shrivel up, makes it kind of go back into the corner, slinks back into the shadows. That really works. It works if we're doing it over a period of time, kind of persistently, consistently, we do it again and again and again. Little things like that add up. And this is the great news of this mindfulness business that's so, I'm so excited to be sharing. I'm so excited to know about it myself, and I want to share it, is that these little things add up, and they end up being kind of noticeable changes over a period of time. And sometimes it's not all that long. I mean, I've had guys in groups in prisons who come back and quite proudly, we do our check-in, how's it been going the last couple of weeks? And someone will say, I was on the phone with my baby mama, and she asked me, hey, you've changed a little bit. What's going on? And he was very proud of that because he wasn't griping so much, maybe. Or maybe when she was complaining, he wasn't trying to one up her with his own complaints. Somehow there was a little bit more, it was a little bit happier phone call. And he was so proud of that. And you know what? He should have been proud of it because it's a great big change. Now, it might have been only a small change, but it's a big, big deal to have that kind of change. And this can happen to every single person. This is not something that you need to be some kind of practitioner that's been doing this for 10 years or something like that. People notice this, and you and viewers who have been doing this for even a few weeks, you probably notice this a little bit, or maybe even if you didn't recognize it now that I'm talking about it, you kind of think back, say, oh yeah, there were times when whatever, the officer said this, and it would have really bothered me, but it didn't bother me quite so much, So really important, when unwholesome thoughts come up, I just try to remember, oh, if I let this grow, it's going to cause me more pain than I need. It's not, this unwholesome thought is not to my benefit. It might feel like it is, but like something happens, makes me a little irritated, and I can really kind of get into going over and over again what an idiot this person is that did that, and it can kind of have this good feel. It's kind of like scratching an itch to the point where it hurts. It kind of feels good to kind of rehearse over and over again. Oh, if I could, I would really whatever to this guy, but I can't, so I'll just imagine it. When I notice that I'm going down that road, if I can kind of, and I do this, I remind myself, oh, this is actually not going to make me happier. This, in the long run, is working against my best interest, thinking along these lines. All I have to do is tell myself that. I don't have to change my thoughts so much. Just telling myself that's the light of awareness shining on this ill will. This it's not really anger. It's like aggravation. I'm aggravated. Something happens aggravating me. Shine this light. Oh, I'm being aggravated by this. Oh, this line of thought is actually gonna cause me a little bit more pain. Just saying that makes that thing go down a little bit. So I think that's my message, and I think it's a really important one. There's a term that I've heard. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but they say neurons. Those are the brain molecules. Neurons that fire together wire together. So your brain activity, the more you do something, the more it becomes a habit. And so if I'm always thinking about how I'm going to get back, or how I dislike this, or how I hate this, or why doesn't he do that? If I'm always doing that kind of rehearsing of these things that bother me, and I kind of go back again and again and again, that becomes wired in. It's a little bit more happening. It's a habit that gets stronger and stronger. I shine the light of awareness of this is not in my best interest, thinking along these lines. Let that wither on. Substitute it for neutral. Oh, this guy doesn't even know he's being such a jerk. Whatever it is, the neutral substitution, the neutral thing, it can kind of make those bad habits less strong. And then we substitute good habits. and mental habits I'm talking about now, lines of thought, ways of thinking, trying to think in terms of how grateful I am for even little things. Think of the glass. Gee, I don't know about this glass. Maybe it is more than half full. Things could be worse. Whatever it is that generates uh, these, whatever we say, healthy thoughts, positive thoughts, niceness within ourselves, kindness within ourselves, this will actually make me more happy. So there, you've had it. My reflections. I
Thank you.
spilled all the beans here.
I'll add just a couple more things and then we'll have another short meditation. Totally building on everything you've said, that it's also helpful to remember that we are doing this moment by moment. We are not becoming an always kind person. We are saying, in this moment, can I remember where would be goodwill? Can I remember what would be of help to my heart and other people? Just in this moment. And then if we've not done that, maybe we lost it, as you talked about that lost it phrase earlier in the day. To remember we are more than the worst thing we've ever done. And that's true for everyone. That yes, we've all made terrible mistakes in our lives. We've all done things we wished we hadn't done, but we are more than that. And in this very moment, right now, we have the opportunity to be however we wish. And if our interest is in bringing forth more kindness, more goodwill, more ease and calm for ourselves, we can do it right now. It doesn't mean we are able to, or even that we intend to do it forever and ever. Just right now is the only time that matters. And then noticing, and each time we do it right now, just as Mr. Keogh said, it builds a habit of doing that rather than doing what maybe we had done habitually before. Lashing out, judging, getting angry. And then the feedback loop is noticing, is like the example on the phone call. We've probably all had phone calls like that where we remembered to either just say nothing or just say something that was of help rather than of hindrance. Then the feedback loop is noticing that actually that really helped the other person also not overreact or get negative. And therefore, as a result, the phone conversation went really better. And so that's, reinforcing, oh, that worked. That really helped. I would love it if I could do that again. And it makes it easier to remember to do it again. And then the other final thing I want to say is an example that I heard someone give that was helpful to me, that our practice, that the mindfulness is useful because it helps us begin to notice these tendencies when they're quite tiny. And the sooner we notice them when they're small, the easier they are to let go of. It's very easy to let go of a tiny little tendency. It's much harder to let go when we're in the midst of an entire tantrum and rage. And the example this person gave, I've never been in the South and I'm not from the South, but he talked about kudzu, which is this little vine that starts as just this tiny little vine. But if it's not removed, it actually grows and grows and grows and circles an entire tree. And it can actually get so big and so strong, it can kill a whole tree, a huge tree. But it starts as just a tiny little vine. And so our negativities start as a tiny little vine. And when they're tiny like that, it's actually quite easy both to notice them, well, maybe not noticing, but when we are able to notice them, it's easy to release them because they're just a little tendency, they're just a little whisper. And we can go, oh, don't follow that one, don't feed that one. But if we let it go and get big, 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 very hard, and actually it's going to kill that tree. It can lead to really terrible consequences that we never would have intentionally planned. So to think of these thoughts as a little tiny kudzu vine that we can just pull out right now, every moment. So let's do another few minutes of meditation. Since it is in meditation that we learn these skills. Let me put the image up again. So that was a lot of words. And just let the words recede for a bit. Notice if the mind is sort of pulled to thinking. And for now, maybe let that thinking go. And instead, just come into the body. And just be willing to feel whatever might be present right now. Even wordlessly. Words can be quite tricky in our mind. They can really carry us away from what's actually happening. They can help us a good deal, often as well. There's nothing wrong with words. But words and thinking have their place. Mindfulness and meditation has a place too. And it connects us to something somewhat different than those words and thoughts do. So in the meditation, we're receiving the experience of this moment, not conceiving it, not thinking on it, not building it up and embellishing it. Instead, we're just receiving whatever might be present, whatever feeling in the mind and heart, whatever feeling in the body. And we're meeting whatever is present with a willingness for it to be present, for us to meet it. That's that idea of goodwill. We're meeting life in this moment with a willingness, with a kindness. We're saying, yes, this is how life is right now. It's not what I requested. It's not what I would have planned. But this is what it is. This is what is present. How can I relate to what is present in this moment? With clarity, with ease, with wisdom. But first is to know it, not think about it, know it, feel it, recognize it, acknowledge. And so that takes quietness. Allowing whatever is present to come fully into our consciousness. Not so that we work to change it or fix it, but so we fully take it in. So in these moments of meditation, fully take in whatever might be present in your body, in your heart, in whatever you're feeling. Not to build on it, just to really know it as it is. And we just let it be whatever it is right now. And can we have the courage and strength of heart to stay there, to stay present? Just stay present and attentive. Because in staying present and attentive, likely we'll begin to see something change. It may not get better, it may not get worse, but it likely will change in some way. So it's not we're demanding a certain sort of change, we're just being open to the reality that change always happens if we're not clinging or pushing away. Just like when we're looking at clouds in the sky, they will change. So willing to be present with what is here, with the truth of the way things are. And learning to notice what is getting in the way of being present. Has the body tightened up in defense? Has the mind started telling stories about what's present? Can I notice either of those? Realize, oh, I'm not present, I'm defending. I'm not present, I'm building the storyline about it. And release that and go back to just being present. But initially, when we hear these teachings, we can think, oh, but that sounds so passive. There are things I need to respond to, things I want to respond to. And that is absolutely true. This is not a passive practice, in fact. We are being with things as they are in order to know them, to see them clearly. And because then, when we've done that, when we've known them, when we've seen them clearly, that gives us the information, the data we need to decide if and whether and how to respond. It doesn't mean we never respond, but it means we take a whole lot more time before responding to make sure we actually know what the storyline is, that we know what's really happening, so that we don't stick our foot in it as we often can do. And there's a lovely phrase that I find helpful that relates to this teaching on goodwill, is that when we've seen clearly, when we've taken the time to really take in this moment as it truly is, whatever is present, then we have the option of acting in a way, trying to get the phrase exactly right here, so that we act in order to do as much good as we possibly can and as little harm as possible. We consider in this moment, how do I do as much good as I possibly can and as little harm as possible? So maybe the way we do that is by continuing to meditate in this very moment. Because in the act of meditation itself, of being willing to be present with our own life, our own experience, that is doing a great deal of good and doing very little harm. So we wish you all the best. We do think of you often. We hope that these videos are of some use and help to you, because we want you to have as much help and as you possibly need. We want you to have everything you need, and to recognize that actually what you most need is your own good heart. And you have that if we all can learn to just connect into it. Mr. Keogh, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just repeating that you're not alone there, that there are many people out here that are thinking of you, and take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Take good care of yourself, of all you care about, of all that are there, that every single one of us, not one left out, needs our kindness and goodwill. Be well, I hope. See you in a couple weeks.
Bye-bye.